Assalamualaikum and a very good day I bid to our respective lecturers, my fellow teammates and everyone who is present in this room. Our group members are Najah, Farisha and I, Umaira. We will be talking about inequality of women's education in Malaysia. Alright, first we are going to take a look at the presentation content so you guys can follow what we are going to present to you. The first two topics, which are introduction and economic barriers to education, will be presented by me, Umaira. Secondly, the two other sections, which are cultural barriers and gender norms, furthermore gender stereotypes in educational materials, will be presented by our second speaker, which is Najah. And last but not least, gender-based violence in educational settings, and the conclusion will then be presented by our third speaker, Farisha. Alright, before we begin, I would like to ask everyone in this room, what exactly is gender equality? Alright, gender equality means that people of all genders have the same rights, responsibilities, opportunities in all areas of life. Now, what does this mean? It basically means that it is about making sure that being female or male or non-binary, etc. does not limit someone's chances to succeed, access education, get paid fairly, or be treated with respect. But to address to everyone, our presentation today are specifically will be focused on women's education in rural areas. Alright, now let's take a look at these illustrations. What do you guys see? We see that the differences between male and females in education or in work sectors. We know that the male gets the easier path. Meanwhile, the females needs to work harder in order to achieve the same goals. Now, I'm going to ask you guys, are there really gender equality in education? No, right? So we are going to prove to you and we are going to inform you that there really isn't gender equality in education, especially in Malaysia, and we ourselves need to address this issue accordingly. Alright, the first problem that we have encountered is that according to United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA 2022 have stated that families in the bottom 40% of income, which is also known as B40, frequently find school-related expenses unaffordable, with transport particularly burdensome in rural areas. Now, what does this mean? The school-related expenses could mean that the school fees, uniforms, books, etc. That some of these B40 families, they could not afford this financially. And furthermore, it also talks about the transportation, which is burdensome in rural areas. What does this mean? That it means that not every families have the vehicles. For example, they don't have cars, they don't have motorcycles, and not only that, not to mention, maybe the school is very far from the home, so it makes it very difficult for their children to have a quality experience in education. Furthermore, since we have addressed that, according to United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA again 2022 have stated that due to these financial constraints, families may prioritize educating sons instead of their daughters because they view their sons as future breadwinners or future providers. This is a form of gender discrimination because as stated in the introduction before, as stated in the definition of equality, that everyone, regardless of genders, backgrounds, etc., should have access to quality education and should get the same opportunity to make the betterment in their life. Alright, moreover, it also has been stated that daughters are often expected to take on domestic or caregiving roles rather than to pursue their education. Since they live in a poverty families, these families often send their sons to continue their education while the daughters are stuck at home and are forced to tend for their family, tend for their elderly, tend for their siblings, which is totally unfair because everyone must have access and must have the opportunity to make their life better and to access the higher educational quality. This is also a form of gender discrimination because they expect women to do the caregiving roles and they put the gender roles on their daughters. And furthermore, it has also been stated that over 20% of girls from low-income households, which is the B40 households, discontinue education before completing secondary school due to financial reasons. This is by Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, KPWKM 2021. Now we are going to move into the next one, but before that, we have discussed that the financial strains cause many problems for women to continue their education. So these significant obstacles, limited financial resources, in fact, prevent many children from accessing quality education. Now we're going to look at some real-life examples to show you that this issue is ongoing. This issue has not been addressed properly, and a lot of women, a lot of girls in this country are being discriminated. For instance, we can see that in Perak, child marriages, poverty, and transportation issues has been identified as factors contributing to school dropout rates, according to Education Committee Chairman Ahmad Saidi Muhammad Daud 2022. Now, we know that since the sons are sent to continue their education as the future breadwinners, the girls and the daughters in their family are often sent to marry off early, even at a very early age. For example, they haven't even finished their secondary school. For instance, maybe they're like 16, 17 years old. These girls, they are forced to marry early to some maybe random old man because their families could not financially support them. Okay, furthermore, according to the news by Malaysian Reserves 2023, has stated that poverty not only affects primary and secondary education, but also deters students from pursuing higher education. Now, what does this exactly mean? This basically means that since these children are not able to attend primary and secondary school, tell me, how is it possible for them to enter the higher education, for instance, colleges or universities? When they do not have the qualification, they do not have the education, how are they going to continue and to further their studies? This is obviously a discrimination to these children, because as parents, it is your responsibility, it is the law for you to send your children and to ensure that your children get a very great quality of education. According to the Article 14 in the Constitution Federal of Malaysia, the access of education should be given to everyone regardless of genders, backgrounds, races, etc. And furthermore, high-achieving students from low-income families often opt to enter the workforce to support their families instead of continuing their studies. So imagine this. It is a very sad situation. It is very, very agony. Alright, for example, there's this one daughter from a very poor family. She wants to succeed and she wants to continue her education. However, her surroundings, her environment did not allow her. Why? Because she have to think about her family. She have to work to take care of the elderly, of her elder parents, and she has to take care of her siblings who may be still studying in school. So instead of furthering her education in colleges or universities, she have to take the decision to throw away all her dreams and all her inspirations, to sacrifice her needs just to support their families by working. So if these girls cannot get out of this cycle of poverty, they cannot further their education. So this cycle, this cycle of poverty will continue from generation to generation. Alright, next, we now have encountered the solutions to these very problems. Alright, for example, the government or NGOs can provide financial support to families. For example, to illustrate to you, the NGOs and governments could give financial aids to students with low income families. For example, they can give prompts, they can give the KWAMPS, you know, the prompts, and they can give they can give beasiswa or something like that. Yes, they can give that. They can give scholarships to these families to support these girls to continue her studies. Furthermore, they can also, like the government and the NGOs can also create a campaign to educate the community to value females' education. Now, what does this exactly mean? It means that the parents who do not let their daughters to further their education, they are not villains. They are simply those who lack education. They do not know the value of females' education because why? Because they have this mindset that says, oh, even if women continue their studies, they'll just be housewives anyways. So they have this very, very bad mindset. So it is really important for the government or for the NGOs to create a campaign to educate the community to value women's education. Because why? Women's rights are basically human rights. Everyone have to get the access to quality education. And moreover, the government should also enforce laws to protect girls' rights to education. For example, they have to enforce laws like the children cannot leave school until the age of 17, and furthermore, they also need to enforce laws that child marriages should be properly prohibited. And moreover, they also have to train teachers in gender sensitivity. For example, as I stated before, it all started in education, so the teachers play a pivotal role to educate the youngs. For them to acknowledge that women's rights are very important and that everyone should know their own rights to continue their education. Alright, you can now see the overview of everything that we have just discussed. We can acknowledge that economic hardships remains a critical barrier in hindering educational gender parity in Malaysia. Not only that, the more than 20% dropout rate statistic effectively underscores the severity of the financial constraints of girls' education that we need to properly address in this very country. And furthermore, we have also provided you some examples and some statistics, researches, etc. to show you that this issue is very important and this issue is very serious, and we all need to play our own roles to address this issue. And now I'm going to pass this presentation to my second speaker, Naja.
Okay, so first and foremost, I would like to thank Myra for such precise and accurate elaborations. Now, as we proceed with our presentations, I would like to draw your attention to problem 2, which I believe lies in the heart of gender inequality in our society. So, these entrenched cultural expectations and gender norms dictate that a woman's primary role is in the home. Yet, it is only by shining light on them that we can hope to dismantle the barriers that they erect. Firstly, I would like you to consider that in some rural areas, girls are expected to stay at home helping with housework or even care for younger siblings rather than going to school. It is this duty, seemingly innocent, even nurturing, that becomes prison to these girls, stifling them from having their educational aspirations. I believe that it is these expectations, the ways in which they reinforce, that we must challenge. Now, moving on, why do so many girls leave school early? Well, as you may or may not know, far too often, girls leave school not because the lack of their ability to to them, but it is because the lack of their familial support to their education. Because these girls are forced to trade their textbook for chores at home because their family believe that their place should be within the four walls of their family home. Okay, now we enter the Student Not Rights Billboard campaign, which was launched on August 2023 by AWL and a coalition of NGOs. So, in this campaign, digital billboards are scattered across Klang Valley, highlighting the harms of child marriage and reminding us all of Malaysia's commitments under CEDAW and Sustainable Development Goal 5. So these billboards, they do not only preach, but they whisper a hope that maybe education can be the key to unlock a girl's potential, which I believe is true. Okay, so next one. Okay, we also need concrete solutions to complement these challenges. So, first among these are media campaigns akin to student not rights, but even in broader scope. For example, the first one, radio spots that tell stories about girls who have succeeded because they stayed in school. Or televisions that shows how families support their daughter's ambition. So I believe that this campaign can someday open policymakers' eyes to enact a meaningful reform in the future. Next, government can provide safe buses and build hostels near schools so that we can ensure that girls attend classes every day, no matter how inclement the weather. So, by removing these practical barriers, families can no longer give they can no longer justify their actions to pull their girls out of school because we already provide safe buses and hostels near schools. Additionally, government can give more financial aid and scholarships, as my friend Myra has mentioned before. For example, the RM150 Early School Assistant, free textbook, and the Federal Minor Scholarship to help relieve the economic strain that, as I said, family often use to pull their girls out of school. Yet, even for girls who quit formal schooling, vocational training courses is still present. So, courses in tailoring, craft making, or sustainable agriculture offers practical skills that can translate into income-generating activities. Here, the lexicon shift from dropouts to skilled artisan, from failure to craftswoman. And last one, schools need to teach reproductive health and rights in schools, but this is not yet present, but will be in 2027, which is the PEERS module. PEERS stands for psychosocial, emotional, educational, reproductive, and social module to help prevent early pregnancy and child marriage. As a real-life example, let us turn to Sweet 16 campaign, which was launched by Sarawak Women for Women Society on October 14, 2024. This initiative combined exhibitions, social media outreach, and roundtable discussions with native leaders to advocate legislative reforms, raising the minimum marriage age to 18 years old. Next, as I mentioned before, the PEERS module in 2027, which is set to enter the curriculum. So, the Ministry of Education collaborate with the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development. They will introduce the Reproductive and Social Health Education PEERS module into the 2027 school curriculum to inform students about reproductive rights and prevent early pregnancy and child marriage. Okay, now transitioning to problem 3, which I believe is a related but distinct challenge. So, this is the underrepresentation of women in the educational materials themselves. So, a recent study of primary English textbook found that female characters remain for only 40.4% of combined textual and pictorial representations in Malaysia's textbook. And even if they are present in the textbook, they are often confined to the domestic spheres, which reinforce occupational stereotypes and limits children's imagining of future careers. By this, women constitute just about 35% of Malaysia's technology workforce, indicating a drop-off between education and industry entry. Now, to overcome these challenges, I believe that the first solutions should be textbook revision. By the Ministry of Education itself, they must partner with publishers to conduct comprehensive reviews so that they can ensure that both women and men appear equally in all leadership or occupational roles. And so we need to see more female engineers, scientists, CEOs, and even astronauts. Next one, we have gender responsive pedagogy. So these two key will train teachers to recognize and counteract biases in classroom interaction, lesson planning, and material selection. So in these workshops, teachers will be trained to differentiate between the students whose voice are heard and whose are silenced. So, next one we have curriculum audits, which is a gender-focused review process, one that examines both core syllabuses and teacher training curricula at a regular intervals. Furthermore, we also have inclusive STEM resource pack, which schools can be provided with UNESCO's resource pack for gender responsive STEM education to attract more students to be interested in the STEM fields. For the last one, we have policy guidance for teachers and educators. Policy guidance for teacher educators, we have UNESCO guide for gender equality in teacher education must be integrated both pre-service and in-service teacher education programs. So as a real-life example, we have Putri Ayu Fiza Azmuni's 2023 study of primary English textbook confirmed entrenched occupational gender roles through thematic analysis of images and text. So her empirical findings have succeeded to attract policymakers to enact more meaningful reforms. And the next one is My STEM Ambassador Leadership Program, which was held at University Malaya in 2022. Partnering with My Friend Foundation, they delivered a workshops and a mentoring program to about 200 undergraduates, explicitly targeting women and marginalized groups to boost their confidence and career readiness in STEM fields. That's all from me. I will pass this to my friend Farisha.
Thank you, Najah. Now I'll be talking about the next problem, which is one of the biggest barriers in achieving gender equality in education, and that is gender-based violence. And this is a serious issue that still happens in many schools across Malaysia, and it affects girls the most. So what is gender-based violence? So GBV includes many harmful actions such as harassment, bullying, and abuse. And these acts create a toxic school environment that discourages girls from fully participating in learning. And in other words, it makes them feel unsafe, uncomfortable, and even afraid to come to school. So first of all, victims of GBV often suffer from anxiety, stress, or depression, and these emotional effects can be very serious. Girls who experience harassment may find it hard to concentrate in class, and they may stop raising their hands or joining group activities, or even skip school altogether. In the long run, this negatively impacts their mental health and academic performance. Becomes harder for them to reach their full potential. And besides that, many students who face gender-based violence choose this silence. Why? Because they are afraid. They fear of being judged or blamed, and they worry that others might not believe them, and even worse, might blame them for what happened. And some students think that speaking up will only make things worse, and as a result, they keep quiet, and sadly, the abuse continue unchecked. And on top of that, there is often a lack of clear reporting channels in schools. This means that even if a student wants to speak up or report abuse, they might not know how or where to do it, because some schools do not have proper system or trained counselors, and some students feel that there is no one else they could trust. And without accountability, those who cause harm are not punished, and they are free to do it again. And this makes the education even more. This makes the situation even more dangerous. And moving on, in short, gender-based violence in schools destroys the learning environment, especially for girls. It discourages discourage them from learning and attending school, and it breaks their confidence and also affects their mental health. So, and most of all, many of them suffer in silence. And moving on to the solutions. Now let me explain the solution to the problem. There are several steps we can take to make schools safer for students, especially girls. So the first solution is to strengthen the enforcement of the Child Act 2001 and Sexual Offence Against Children Act 2017. So this laws has already existed in Malaysia, but they are not always applied properly in schools. And we need to make schools legally accountable for responding to GBV. So in simple terms, schools must be responsible. And if they ignore abuse or fail to take an action, there should be consequences. And this will make school more safer place, and schools will take the report seriously. And the next one, and this for the second solution, is to implement zero tolerance policies in schools with visible guidelines and disciplinary actions for all forms of harassment or abuse. So, for example, there should be rules that say what are not allowed to do, so that they know what will happen if they break the laws, the rules. And these rules must be made clear to all students, teachers, or even parents. So when they know that the GBV is not accepted, the school will become a safer place. And this also delivers a strong message that every student deserves respect and every voice matters. And for the third solution is to introduce comprehensive sexuality education (CSE) in the national curriculum. So some people may find it uncomfortable, but it is very important. And the CSE teach students about consent, boundaries, and respectful behavior. So, moving on to the fourth solution is to establish confidential and anonymous reporting system in every school. So students can simply report misconduct without fear of retaliation. So, if schools provide a safe or private way to show way to show people to show the abuse report in types of like they can do online forms or complaint box or even trusted adults. And moving on to the next one is real life example. And so this is happened in Malaysia in June 2023. A teacher in Terengganu was arrested after several female students reported sexual harassment. And this issue shocked both media and public. People were angry and they started to ask how could this happen in school? So as they dive deeper, they found that the schools do not have proper safeguarding protocols despite the existence of laws and awareness campaigns. So after all of this incident, parents and civil society organizations pressured the Ministry of Education to improve the Safe School initiative and take urgent action. And critics noted that the school had no proper counseling services or trusted adults, and the adults could approach when the abuse began. And this is why all of this happened in Terengganu. And the last one for conclusion, education is not just a tool for employment, it is the foundation of equality, justice, and freedom. Although Malaysia had made progress, many girls still face challenges like poverty, cultural norms, and gender-based violence. These issues can be overcome with targeted support, policy reform, and strong community involvement. Gender equality in education is not only the right thing to do, it is a smart investment in our nation's future. When girls are educated, everyone benefits. And let's build a fairer and more resilient Malaysia through inclusive education. That's all from us, and we will start our Q&A session.
Alright, so thank you so much to Farisha and Aja. And once again, I would like to give an overview of everything that we have discussed. We can see that education is the most powerful tool we have to change our life and to become successful. And not only that, education opens the door, and through learning, girls can change their lives, and they can also gain the confidence to shape their futures. And furthermore, girls must have the access to quality education as well, because they deserve the same opportunities as boys do to succeed in school and in life. Alright, so anyone here would like to ask questions?
Yay!
Yes?
I have a specific question for Myra.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, our education outcomes, for instance, jobs, incomes, empowerment, the same for men and women in Malaysia?
Alright, to answer your questions, no, I do not think that the job experience for men and women are the same, because for one, we can see that women got paid. Women are paid lower than men are, and for example, furthermore, maybe they are women in STEM fields, but they faces barriers and challenges like they cannot get higher roles, they cannot get higher positions because of gender discrimination, etc. And they also face what we call a glass ceilings and glass cliffs, which is a very difficult issue that has not been addressed yet in this time.
I want to ask another question to Naja. So how can the introduction of safe classes and school hostels in rural areas help to challenge deep-rooted cultural traditions that keep Malaysian girls at home?
Okay, so thank you for the question. To answer the question, I believe that by providing safe transport and accommodation, this measure will remove the practical barriers and will keep families from justifying the actions of pulling their girls out of school and keeping them at home, thereby signaling that girls' education is both valued and feasible.
So my question is for Farisha. Why are girls in some rural communities still dropping out of school early?
I think it is due to academic hardships, pressure to have at home, and early marriage, poor school infrastructure, and long travel distance. So parents may prioritize boys' education more because they view them as the future breadwinners.
Alright, so that will simply conclude our presentation for today, and thank you so much everyone.